Hello, my beautiful co-creators of the new paradigm. Thank you for tuning in or for tuning in again if you've been here before. I feel I owe you guys an explanation because I haven't been posting anything on this channel for months. Now, there has been a reason, but I needed more time because I wasn't ready to share it. So for the past 11 years or so, I have been channeling the Yael, who you may have come to know through Arjun, the Yael guide that I channel most frequently. It's never been isolated, as in I'm just channeling the Yael, no other species. They are cross-connecting to many other kind of ET species, Sirius energy, Arcturian energy. There's all kinds of stuff chiming in the background. But for, let's say, ease and clarity, I've always kept it very clear cut. Okay, so this is the Yael period. And if somebody would ask Arjun, he would always explain, okay, there's a lot more going on. It's an all orchestration. Now, besides that, I've been receiving all kinds of contact for myself. Sometimes I could understand that, sometimes I couldn't. This has been happening for me since I was a child. It started at a really young age. And besides interdimensional communication with ET beings and higher dimensional frequency forms of consciousness, occasionally, there has been contact with the astral realm. That is definitely not my forte. I'm not super attuned to that specific radio channel, but there have been some interactions, just enough to be 100% certain that it exists. And that communicating with that particular bandwidth is an absolute possibility for mankind. So there's been that. And then on top of that, there's been a whole bunch of animal communication just happening at random for me throughout my life. Communication with plants. And once in a while, I would receive a full-blown vision. And okay, so I'm not telling you all of this to brag or something, not at all, because for me, very much, this stuff has been rather challenging, particularly at the beginning of my journey, because I didn't know what to do with it. And only recently, I saw a wonderful interview with Jamie Butler, who I really admire and respect as a colleague channeler, even though I guess maybe, well, these words become more and more interchangeable nowadays, it seems. But I think she's more of a medium, or that's her forte. So that radio channel that I have kind of that I feel challenged tuning in with, she's an expert in that. Absolutely amazing, absolutely mind-blowing. So just recently I saw an interview with Jamie Butler, and she is one of the few for whom her journey started so early and it was so in her face that she felt it was overwhelming, and she was, for a while in her life, if I understood her correctly, she was trying to dim it down through all kinds of methods for her. In her own way, she tried to dim it down because she wanted to be more normal. And for me, in my life, there have been real phases like that as well, where I was just trying to turn it off. I did not want to see auras. I was terrified of the amount of out-of-body experiences that I had. And at some point, I actually went to the, how do you call that in English? I think the GP, the general practitioner, because I didn't have words for this either. This was in a time where we didn't have the internet in the way that we have it now. And definitely all of these topics weren't very much discussed at all. So I went to the GP and I said, I have incredibly vivid dreams. So much so that it really disturbs me, and I'm lacking sleep, and it's influencing my studies. I was doing art school at the time. I feel that I've always been, I feel like these multidimensional layers have always so much been my primary language. I think this is true for everybody, but for me, it was always very much in the forefront. And that's why when I discovered something like art school existed when I when I was really young, I immediately decided, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to either do art school or I want to become a veterinarian because I love animals. Like I love them so much, and no wonder that it's really easy for me to understand what they have to say. Mm, but I didn't understand why for me it was so it seemed sometimes almost invasive to receive all of that information. And I guess a big reason for why it seemed invasive was because one, I didn't have words for it, and two, I wasn't raised with this being normal. There was no context given to me for any of that. So when I went to the GP, I was probably about 20, 21, 22. And he directed me to a therapist, and he said, well, you go speak to this person, and dreams are very often a result of things that you need to process in your life, and maybe this has something to do with things that have happened in the past, and if you speak to this person, maybe things will calm down and your sleep will improve. So I did that. I went to see a therapist, and his background, which I feel was a real blessing, particularly in those days where this was way more rare, his background was in hypnotherapy. And even though he wasn't offering his services as a hypnotherapist with me, we were using the general, how do you say, the Jungian talking therapy. We were just having conversations, basically. He was just, like putting in a pinch of the hypnotherapy energy vibration, in a sense, in those sessions. But it really helped me. So I eventually mustered up the courage to talk about my dreams a little bit. I still called them dreams. I didn't know the word out of body experience or that terminology. So I showed him a drawing of what I described as a very scary man. And it was kind of a blend between a gray alien, and a human being. But I was super terrified of those beings at the time, because I sometimes saw them in my dream. So I showed him a drawing of that, because as a result of the lack of words for these kind of experiences, I would just draw them and paint them. And that was my first language, in a way, images. So I showed that to him. I explained that I was scared. And then he told me, whatever appears in your dreams, there's nothing to be afraid of. If it looks scary, it's just scary looking because it wants your attention. And if you keep running away from it and you say, no, 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 you're pushing it away, but it wants your attention. So it may push back, or it may pull more, however you want to look at that. And so I let that sit, that idea, and I started to approach my dreams differently after he told me that. And within a week, I guess, all the fear disappeared. Pretty much all of it. Like, ever since, I must have had like hundreds of nightmares or encounters that felt challenging to me before that age, 21-ish. And now I'm over double of that. I'm in my 40s. And after that conversation, I think I may have had, I don't know, maybe maximum 15, maybe 20 times where I was genuinely startled because of some kind of encounter or something that happened, or meeting a new species that I really didn't see coming. Stuff like that. So whatever changed in me as a result of those words, it changed everything. It just changed everything. That one little sentence. I just needed at that age an adult human being um, with some expertise, reminding me how to deal with the multidimensional playing field, because it was incredibly present for me. And I just didn't know what to do with it. Now, I'm just overflowing with love and awe for the wide variety of different multidimensional layers that are quote unquote out there. And by out there, I mean in here, that are in us, that we can access individually and collectively. And definitely, I feel this collective move is absolutely unfolding right now. So, despite that, all of this, what I'm sharing right now, this is not necessarily super scary for me to share. Some people know this about me, that there's always been a lot. I have, however, very deliberately chosen not to put that stuff at the forefront of what I've been sharing on this YouTube channel, because I felt, I'm channeling Arjun, and people want to hear Arjun. So what does it really matter what my personal experiences have been? And then I got inspired by, well, first of all, I've been feeling this within myself, and it's been like, wow, wanting to come out more and more and more over the past few years. Definitely reaching a crescendo in summer 2024 already, and I just wasn't ready. And then also relatively recently ago, I saw another. I don't know if I should call this a podcast. It's more of a documentary almost. There is this really awesome YouTube channel if you're into contact experiences, and a really well done, really beautifully edited presentation of those. You should go and check out the YouTube channel called Area 52. There's this guy there. His name is Chris. I'm sorry, I forgot his last name. So he was interviewing a contactee. One of the most amazing stories. He has amazing stories on that YouTube channel, one after another. But he was interviewing a contactee, an experiencer, however you want to call it. And this man has had some incredible encounters. Ever since he was a kid, he has seen a UFO up close, and all of his friends who were kids as well at the time, they were playing, and then this UFO hovered over a building, and they were just going onto the roof, and it was right above the building, and all his friends were frozen in well, let's just call it the spell of the UFO energy. And there's a lot more that I could talk about when it comes to this kind of like body freeze, or what some people call sleep paralysis. Anyway, he had that experience, and he was not frozen. He stayed unfrozen. And he could walk amongst his friends who were frozen on the spot. Absolutely crazy story, but amazing, amazing. So he's sharing that story and a lot more. And by the end of his interview, Chris asks this man, is there anything particular that you would like to share with the listeners right now to wrap up this part one of their two-part, what will be a two-part interview? And his guest says, who has been having all of these experiences, he says, yes, there is something that I would like to say. And it is to all people who have had any kind of ET contact experience or out there experience, whether it was ET or multidimensional. This is how I interpreted what he said. And he said, to all of these people, if you have had such a experience, tell your story. And he didn't just say, tell your story. He said, tell your story and tell all of it. And I was just, oh my God. I've really been holding back so much stuff that I've experienced. And main reason for that was I felt, this is just, most of this probably happened just to help me on my personal journey. But some of these things that I've been shown were pretty obviously not just for me, and I still kept them to myself. So ever since I had that experience with this therapist, I eventually started having visions. And I think I've had maybe around 15 or so, maybe 18 visions ever since. A vision to me is an absolutely different experience from a dream, or even a lucid dream, or even an out-of-body experience. And for me, they come with sensory data. And one that really stands out is audio, but also tactile. So if there's a storm, I can feel the wind on my skin. If there's a person that touches me, which hasn't necessarily happened in a vision, but it could happen, and I've had that in out-of-body experiences, then I will feel the pressure on my skin. And when I wake up in that moment, like if that startles me and it wakes me up, I will still feel the echo of the imprint on my skin. It's like it's still there. I can still feel it. And because I couldn't completely understand why that had happened or what exactly had happened, I've been keeping the visions to myself most often, and also the contact experiences. And you guys are probably gonna think, why don't you ask Arjun? You have Arjun, or that's how people often think of this connection that I have with Arjun. Is true. I'm connected to him. We are connected. But he knows something I didn't know. So when I was super scared the first time I made contact with the astral accidentally, these things just, happen. I just feel like I go willy-nilly out of body, and then I'm here and then I'm there. And that's how I learned. I learned from just jumping into the deep end of the pool and being there and being completely flabbergasted and at a loss for words, and then coming out of it. And then I needed some time to integrate that. And then, of course, I would ask Arjun and other guides, like, hey, you guys, what just happened? And if I was upset, I would always get reassurance, as in, don't be afraid. And they explained to me the general outline of why these kind of things happen to, I don't even want to say happen for some people, because everything that happens, quote unquote, to us happens for us. It happens for me when that happens. So they explained that to me. They reminded me of that when I was, a little, what's going on this time? But very often they couldn't give me the details of what it exactly meant, or why specifically this happened. They could give me a hint, or they would just smile, and that would just throw me back on to myself. And so what I used to do was write everything down, even though I felt, how do you say, the weight of it or something, the momentum, the strength of these downloads. And there definitely was something in me that felt like, it might be interesting to share this stuff, but how am I going to do this? So yeah, basically I've decided to just share them, to just do it, to just see what will happen, because I don't feel I can keep them to myself any longer, especially where we are right now, because there's so much happening. And I feel like a lot of these downloads, visions, whatever you want to call them, that I've received that feel to me like they're directly from the collective field. I feel this is the time to share them. And Arjun has explained something about that to me. That has to do with us evolving into the potential of becoming a completely telepathically connected collective. And all of this is intertwined, interwoven. And so I have decided I will make a separate video about how visions and dreams and sharing multidimensional experiences eventually can allow us to evolve into a telepathically connected collective. Why? What the mechanics are behind that, which is pretty cool. I think I get it right now, but I'm gonna save that for a different video and then share it with you guys. And I've written down a little list of the main visions that I feel I would love to share with you guys. The first one is definitely going to be the one wherein I met Arjun for the first time and I did not know who he was. And this happened shortly after I finished having talks with this kind therapist that I spoke to back in the days. And so when my fear was gone for dream interactions, the beings, even the bandwidth or the spectrum of the type of beings that started interacting with me changed. So new ones could then come in, where other ones that were more like scary could move to the back. And I can see the logic in all of that now. I couldn't then, I can now. So maybe I should make a video about that too, how that is logical and why these kind of things, quote unquote, happen to, quote unquote, to some people, which is for people, it all happens for us, but why it feels as if it is happening to us, and it very much seems like that whilst it's happening and you don't understand it, and why it doesn't happen, quote unquote, to or for other people. I'm gonna make another video about that. That's my intention. I'm just putting it out there. So one of the first visions that I want to share is how I met Arjun. And I also want to just put in some, context when it comes to when I'm speaking about stuff that came from the collective field. For example, the first earth plane vision that I ever had, I call them earth plane vision because they have to do with the human collective and the earth, and they together are an energy field or we all are in the same energy field. And of course, there are an infinite amount of parallel versions of reality, of versions of Earth and versions of the collective of humanity. So all of these downloads that are received are one glimpse in that entire really, really big infinite spectrum of possibilities. I get that. And I have experienced how some of these downloads would line up with reality. And when that first happened, it just scared me. And so I became afraid to talk about them. Later, I became more fascinated with the phenomena. Still didn't know what to do with it though. And now I'm like, okay, you know what? This list, I think I need to share. I think I want to share. And yeah, it's gonna add, I believe, my personal belief, I think it's gonna add to our journey into becoming a more telepathically oriented collective. So that's why I'm doing it. So one of the first visions, out of body experiences, is how I first met Arjun and what he showed me. And that was when I was around the age of 22, maybe 23 by then. Also in that time frame, I saw my first UFO. I was with a friend and this was a really close encounter. It flew right over our heads. It appeared mid-air. It appeared there was nothing there. It was a clear sky except for some really, really easy see-through wispy clouds that you could see the stars through the clouds. That was how thin they were, and there was just a few of those really wispy clouds. And it appeared right over our heads. Me and a friend, we were laying in the grass, heads beside each other. Like his head was here, he was laying, like that way with his body, and I was laying this way. And so we could talk to one another and see the stars simultaneously. And it was a summer night, and all of a sudden there's this big black triangle UFO. It appeared in the sky. It whooshed right over us, but without a whoosh sound, no sound, absolutely no sound. Three big red lights, or one big red light on every corner of the triangle, and one big red light in the center. And it just moved over us like it was sliding over a pane of glass, like just dead quiet. And then it disappeared just as easily. It appeared, it's just moved like that, or actually from the left to the right for me. And then it disappeared. And all we could do, him and me, he saw it too. The only thing we could do was breathe in. We were like, like that. And I just remember breathing in. So how many seconds is that? Like 5, maybe 7. Like that was it. But we were both. We could see it so really clear. It was so in our faces, basically. And right after it disappeared, we both jumped up, like we immediately got into the sitting position, turned our heads so that we could see each other, and at the same time, we said to each other, "Did you see that?" And the rest of the night, we were talking about this thing. And we didn't know what it was. And then after that, and this is all after I finished the talking therapy thing. And my fear was gone for whatever I was receiving in my dreams. That's when I had the UFO encounter. And after that encounter, lots of ETs suddenly started appearing in my dreams. And very cliche, some of the first that appeared showed me a peace sign. They were really like, hey, we come in peace, like super classic. And then that was the very first time I started Googling. That was the first time I went on the internet to look up stuff about, ETs. Never occurred to me before, even though I've seen them ever since I was a child. I didn't want to use that label. Yeah. And I didn't like sci-fi movies because they were always very violent. So I guess it was because of the programming of that time that I grew up in that I didn't feel comfortable using the word aliens or ETs or extraterrestrials. I was like, yeah, I don't know. They're just all, there's gonna be some shooting involved or something. There was this immediate correlation to violence, which is really the programming that was happening in that time, I feel. And our movies have become so much better. Just think of Avatar, for instance. I love it. I can't wait for the next, how do you say that, episode? The next part to come out. But anyway, back in those days, it didn't occur to me to use that label. So, and then finally I Googled it after I had the UFO experience. And then I came to this website that was like really kind of spooky, and they had this whole checklist that you could fill out to see if you had ever been abducted or if you had anything to do with the gray aliens. That was the first thing you were going to find. And I checked nearly all the boxes, and that freaked me out. So I closed that website, and I didn't want to have anything to do with the idea of ET contact or aliens for another few years. Like it took me, I don't know, until 27, 28, until I started opening up to the idea again to some degree, in a very different way, by the way. And what was really cool after the UFO experience, when I had that sighting, the dreams were fun. When I had that bunch of dreams right in the nights right after the sighting with the peace sign aliens and stuff, in that phase, I suddenly started getting really interested in meditation for like it seemed no reason. Nobody else around me was doing it. And I just suddenly wanted to learn how to meditate. So I even traveled to Thailand. I put it on my bucket list. Like the moment I graduate from art school, I will go to Thailand and I will go to a monastery and I will learn how to meditate. And I actually did that. And like something happened every time I meditated. I just felt like, whoa, this is really cool. I just felt all kinds of stuff happening. And what started with goosebumps at that time, I would always feel a little like shiver going from the top of my head to the base of my spine whenever I started meditation, eventually evolved into feeling I am not alone. Whenever I meditate, the moment I close my eyes, there is contact. There is contact. I can't meditate on my own anymore. And that journey went from just feeling the little tingling and still receiving a lot of information in dreams. And then slowly but surely through just following the breadcrumb trail, I suppose, and overcoming my fears along the way. Eventually, I got to the point where I can now communicate with them while I'm semi-lucid or semi-awake. I'm not completely out of it. I'm also not completely in it while I'm channeling. I'm kind of out of it, but I can hear the words as they're being spoken. And my attention span is like 5 to 7 minutes, I suppose. So by the end of a channeling, I remember the last 5-6 minutes. And then when somebody mentions something that was said previous to that, I'll remember that too. I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that just happened. That also happened. And sometimes I feel like during a channeling, they give me notes or something. This is relevant for you. This is relevant for you. And then that stays somewhere with me, just for me. Whereas the rest of the information is I'm just passing it on. That's mostly what's going on when I'm channeling Arjun. Wow, I was reading a list. I'm going back to the list now. Oh my God. All right. So one of the first visions that I'm really excited about sharing will be the first encounter I ever had with Arjun. I did not know who he was. And very shortly after I saw that UFO, he appeared to me in a vision. And it was a full-blown vision. And there, and it was an earth plane experience, as I call it, or earth plane vision. And it's also a galactic event. It's a big galactic event. Secondly, the fall of the banks / disclosure / a mask. Not a mouth mask, by the way, but a full face mask, like the ones they wear in Venetian carnivals. That kind of mask. And I'm not going to say that we're all going to have to wear those. But there's a mask as a symbol in this particular download. And by that, I mean that in that vision, I got to see something that has to do with the fall of the banks, our current currency. Something is going to really change about that. And it will coincide somehow with the disclosure, or at least it did in that vision. And something will be masked. Something will be hidden. So more about that when we get there. Then number 3, the storm from the north. Number 4, asteroid. Number 5, the great return of Christ consciousness and a new currency. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know how else to call this. Christ consciousness, the Buddha nature, collective mass enlightenment. That was pretty amazing. Then next, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the fall of the system and another Christmas. So for some reason, I don't know, the setup was stuff would happen and then it would be Christmas. So I don't know if we're going to see like a whole lot of stuff happening before this Christmas, or whether it will be about the Christmas of 2026 or 27. I don't know. But that is another one that was pretty impressive to me. Then there are some older ones that have already occurred. One is 9/11. I actually saw that coming in my own way. I couldn't pinpoint as to where that was going to happen. And I was only 21 at the time, but I saw it coming. And another old one, quote unquote, was COVID. I got 3 vision downloads in the beginning of 2019. One where it involved mouth masks. One that involved, you're not going to believe it, a double, how am I going to say this without getting a trigger into the video? Let's see. A double medical treatment often used to prevent disease. And by double, I mean the treatment was executed and then the doctor would walk away and then he would come back into my vision and he would do it again for the patient. So it was a 2-step treatment of this particular preventative method in medicine. And boy, was I surprised when we moved into actual COVID and this is what they recommended, that you would get this type of treatment and it would be a 2-step procedure. Another one on this list is the silver-eyed people, whatever that may mean. I don't know either. We're all gonna either find out together, and maybe it was a symbolic thing, but I don't know. It was pretty weird. In my entire life, I've only heard one other person mention them, and it was in a Q&A with another channeler, and I don't know who that person was. I think she said she saw them in a dream. So I saw them in an out-of-body experience. And it was crazy, but they had silver eyes. And I mean, as if there's light shining out of their, not the pupils, the thing around that, the irises. Sometimes I have to look for the words. English is not my first language. So, yeah, silver-eyed people. And then another one is called the Black Mist. And I don't completely understand that either. That was a little bit of a scary one. I will tell you now, that was the whole list, by the way. That was the whole list. I will tell you that whenever I'm going to share a vision or a download that I had that seemed a little scary at the time I was having it, I'm going to add integration tools. Not just for, what I shared and if it seemed triggering, but for you so that you can apply them to whatever seems a little upsetting. And also, if you're one of those people that is receiving downloads from all kinds of parallel timelines that may be close to us, but maybe are not ours, and I want to add that. I'm going to add that to every single one of these when I share them. None of this is black and white. My visions too are just tapping into parallel timelines that I know are a potential, but nobody says this is how they will or even if they will happen. Besides just painting about certain downloads and keeping it nice and cozy in my own living room and hanging it on the walls, I'm gonna talk more about these things. And this is me taking the first step in doing so. If you stayed with me all the way to the end of this video, thank you so much for just being there and walking on this path with me and holding this space for me. I really deeply appreciate it. And if this has inspired you in one way or another, please leave your thoughts in the comments. I am Super curious to hear your own experiences. Thank you for your own courage. I'm with you there. We're in this together and we're going to move through it together and we will get out on the other end. And I think it's gonna be awesome. Okay, I love you guys and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.